Hello, and welcome to another episode of Young Black Mrs. I'm your host, Morgan F. And today we are wrapping up our two-part series about mom twins. So, my friend Naomi, who is a repeat guest, peeped me to the phrase mom twins because I hadn't heard of it. And we've been bonding, reconnecting in our friendship as we both are thugging it out through this breastfeeding journey. And we share a lot, kind of like you was just listening in on us having a conversation, like a phone conversation, to be honest with you, because I hadn't been able to talk to her in a while. We're texting buddies because life be lifing. So I'm glad we got to still away about half an hour and chat and catch up on our struggles with and our joys with breastfeeding as new moms. So I can't wait for you to hear that component of our conversation. But now, let's just head on in to some segments. Shaking my curls, I'm shaking my curls, I'm shaking my curls, shaking my curls, I'm shaking my curls, I'm shaking my curls, I'm shaking my curls. Okay, so as it relates to breastfeeding, which we're getting ready to have a longer conversation about in the pod, I'll be honest with you, I really hadn't seen anyone of color nursing. And maybe that's just because I don't know. I don't know. I just hadn't seen it. And I think when I first, I mean, I don't, that might also because I feel like when my friends become moms, it's more of a, it's like they go off into the sunset and they kind of disappear for a little while, which is totally fine because you have a whole human that you're trying to raise. But honestly, I'd never seen, except for one friend who happens to be white. But I've never really seen a lot of people of color nursing. And now that I'm a mom and my friend Naomi and a couple of other of my friends are nursing, it's like a little, it's like a little, I keep saying like motherhood's like a sorority that everyone probably like lots of women want to be a part of. But that's up to God, you know what I mean? So it's been interesting on this journey and kind of seeing it through the lens of how Black women are in this space. Because even when I go to the breastfeeding groups, it's usually just me. Like, which is fine. Like, whatever. It also might be because of where I'm going. That might be the reason why. But and I'm not, I'm always thinking about my people and how it's hard for us to want to do something if we don't see with someone speaking for myself. It's hard for me to want to do something. Sometimes I don't feel like my people are in that space. And I'm sure that probably resonates with other folks of color. It's like, oh, well, my family, we don't really do that, or my people, we don't really do that. Kind of like veganism, just like, oh, I'm gonna eat some animal product, full stop, right? But nursing has always been, like my mom nursed me for, and I will say this again, my mom nursed me for like 6 weeks. She didn't have the support. And I'm not saying that to shade her. She didn't have the support, but she did the thing, right? Because she wanted that experience. And now I just feel like people just either if they're doing it, they're not sharing it, is what I'm noticing. And now that I feel people are starting to share more and there's more communities where you will see people of all shades nursing their child. But I'm shaking my curls mostly at the fact that it's still stigmatized and sexualized. I even was one of them, right? And I'm still working up my confidence to nurse in public. Nursing in public, I don't care. Nursing with people I know is where I get a little uncomfortable because sometimes I feel like if you're looking at my daughter, who almost said her name, if you're looking at my daughter while I'm nursing her, she's at the point where she's very distracted, so she's gonna pop off the boob, and I don't want you to see my nipple. And if I'm at my house, I don't really want to cover up, right? So I'll just kind of put a little shawl over and just mind my business, right? But if I'm in public, I don't care. But then I feel like people forget what the body was meant to do. We're humans, yes, but it's a mammal mentality. Like the body was meant to provide for yourself and for your child to a certain extent, right? And so it's just beautiful how the body is able to do that. I mean, I'm so impressed with how my body is, but I hate that it's so sexualized. And I really, on the side, I really don't know why people sexualize the booty. Just thinking about how the booty does what the booty does. Why? And then thinking about what the breasts do. I mean, I can understand why the breasts are beautiful because what it does, like, provides food for your baby if that's so what you choose. And yes, they're lovely to look at, sure, right? And I guess the booty is lovely to look at too. But again, I just don't understand. Like, there's nothing sexual about me feeding my child. And I mean, I understand modesty and covering up, but if that's not your vibe, say less. I was at a yoga class and again, nervous well, I didn't really know the vibe, right? I didn't, so that was part of the problem. I don't think I was as nervous because it's just a bunch of moms. Who cares, right? And I don't know them, right? So who cares? But like, I didn't know what the vibe was. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna bring her a bottle and I'm gonna pump in the car. And that's what I did. But then I saw someone in a beautiful like pose nursing their child, and I was like, bro, that could have been me. That should have been me. Um, and so I just wish that I could have seen myself and someone else doing it and not having to feel like the pioneer of it. Because at this point, we're at about 7 months of this. And it's so empowering and it's so liberating, but it's a labor of love. And for anyone to judge said labor of love, to tell you why are you still doing that if it's been more than whatever? Because I believe the recommendation is 6 months to a year. But if you're going past that, round of applause, you the boss. You know what I'm saying? Because hard, especially if you're a working mommy. If you have to clock in or you have to physically be at a building and you're not, you know what I mean? You're not a stay-at-home girly, which respect. But if you're a working mommy, baby, you doing that, okay? Because ain't for the weak. And then the things you feel about your supply, it's just so much, right? So for anyone to make you feel a type of way about your journey in breastfeeding irritates me. Full step. I really talk with my hands. I'm still trying to get used to this video component of it. But yeah, yeah. I feel like I said a lot in that, but overall, there's no need for there's no need for judgment about how a mom feeds, whether she nurses or she bottle feeds. But there's also no need for judgment or around how long she does it either. So I'm taking my girls at that. All right. On to name. Next topic. Segment. Next segment. On to the next segment. I've got a special guest with me, Miss Naomi. Say hello.
Hey,
A little delayed, but it's
I know.
okay. Good.
I thought you were. I thought you were like. I don't know. I thought you were like, oh, I have a special guest with me, and then I thought you were like gonna bring out something. So I was like, no, okay, but
It's
yeah.
you, girl. It's you, girl. You the special guest, Miss Naomi. Girl, I'm not finna play with you. I was thinking back because we have a return guest. I was thinking back. I don't even remember if we had even mentioned the last time we talked, like how we know each other. I was sitting here thinking
hmm
like, oh yeah, we were in that what is it called, Teen Star thing back in
hmm
Kansas City when they had that. And now
Yeah.
like newspapers are not even popping anymore, but you're in your journalism era and I am in my marketing era. So I just find
hmm
that comical. But
hmm
I was giggling about that because I think you
Yeah.
might be a year older than me, but we were the
Yeah.
only two brown girls up in there, if
Which
I
is why
remember
we were like,
correctly.
hey, girl.
Hey boy, exactly. See, and I'm realizing my point of saying all that, I'm realizing as a new mom, like that is how we just gravitate. Even if
Yeah.
even if it's not a racial thing, right? But like, yes, if you see a brown girl, black girl up in the space, you're like, ooh, hey, how you got a 5 month old, da, da, da. I'm right there with you. So I just found that quite comical because you reached out to me and were like, "We're mom twins, girl. What is that?"
I know, because I was just randomly on Facebook, and then I think I like one of your pictures popped up, and I was like, oh snap, she has a kid. I was like, oh, that's great. And then I saw that, she was you said that she was turning 5 months, and I was like, hey, wait a second. And I was like, well, how old is she? And then you were like, oh, gave birth in April. And I was like, oh, snap, we're mom twins. And it just, I was telling my friend the other day about, us reconnecting, because I was like, yeah, I was like, we actually live very similar lives, like growing up in Kansas, doing the journalism thing, like two-parent households and all that, and just, being Midwestern Black girls.
Exactly,
And I,
except for I was on the Missouri side. We just wanted the
yeah,
people know.
exactly. But I mean, like, and I was like, it's amazing that we've still stayed in contact like this entire time. Because, usually after a while, it's like, okay. But I was like, yeah, I mean, we share a lot of similarities. And now we have two kids who were born
Or a
like,
couple
what,
weeks,
a week?
well, not
Yeah,
even
a
a
week
couple weeks, like
apart.
a week apart. Yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
Which is I'm so thankful that you reached out to me because we've been I need all the support, and I
Same.
think the feeling's probably mutual because this like I was saying, I don't know if I said this in another podcast or I don't know what I've said it, listeners, but this is a sorority, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
or maybe I said this to you, I don't know. Like it's just like a whole little sorority of sisterhood that I always wanted to be a part of, but there
Yeah.
was really no way to pay my way in, you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
You gotta
well.
do a couple things, okay, to get to where you're getting. But
Yeah.
I know I wanted to reach out to you and talk to you about breastfeeding and your breastfeeding journey. And I
Hmm.
was actually doing a little Google schmoogle before I hopped on the call with you because I was always so curious. I know that the like pediatricians would recommend, like the AAP, the American Academy of Pediatricians would recommend exclusively breastfeeding your kid for like I think it might be 6 months or it might have extended to a full year. Maybe
Hmm.
the guidelines have changed. I kind
Hmm.
of hear different things. And so
Hmm.
I know it's like recommended, but then I started to
Hmm.
think, well, how many Black girls are actually out here doing that, right? Because the way that I was first introduced to some or saw someone that was breastfeeding was my friend who happens to be white. And I was like, oh, wow. I'm kind of curious, why did you want to breastfeed?
Um, it was just always a natural thing that I wanted to do. I don't think I've ever like taken the time to sit and think about it. I was just like, okay, yeah, of course I'm going to breastfeed my child. And, growing up hearing my mom always talk about it and everything. Oh, I breastfeed all you guys. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. But so it wasn't, it wasn't really like a thing that I wanted to choose. It wasn't until I got pregnant and had my kid that I heard about, women being like, oh, well, I don't want to breastfeed because of this or da, da, da. And I'm just like, wait a second. Or like,
What were the
I just,
reasons?
yeah, like just, I don't even know. Some women had trauma associated with it, but I was just like, some women just don't want to do it. And I was
Hmm.
just like, okay, I don't understand it, but you do you.
Right. Yeah, and there's no judgment. Absolutely. Fed is fed,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
I always find it interesting because some of I feel like you and then my one of my line sisters, but a lot of the other one like right up as of current are breastfeeding, but a lot of the other ones were like, yeah, I tried that and wah wah wah, or I
Yeah.
was dry, I didn't have any milk or anything
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. And so I
Hmm.
hear that a lot. But then and my mom breastfed me for a whole 6 weeks. Yes, thank you, mom. But then she was like, girl, you wouldn't latch. And so I feel like there's
Yeah.
a lack of support. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of policies in place, thanks Obama, thanks Biden, that are helping us being able to have support. I researched, there's a Pumped Act. Yes, you see me doing my Googles, okay? And I think it
Hmm.
was under the Biden administration, but under the Obama administration, through like the Affordable Care Act, it allows you to get medically necessary pump, like through
Hmm.
your insurance.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah, I
then
did get that. Yeah. I didn't know that was
but
through them. Cool.
yeah, but then through this Pump Act that was like signed maybe in 2020, I don't know. It was signed during the Biden administration. I want to say maybe
Hmm.
2022. It was like you could also be able to, it kind of structured those rules for pumping. Like you could
Hmm.
can pump at work or, this certain amount of time. It structured rules that made you as the breastfeeding mom be able to pump when you need to. And so I feel
Mm.
like I say all that to say there's so much more support now. And
Yeah.
even lactation consultants are insured but that wasn't the case several years ago, or maybe when we
Yeah.
were growing up. Maybe your mom's
Yeah.
just a G, you know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
kind of wonder if that's the discrepancy why I don't see as many folks that look like us breastfeeding, but maybe you have a
Yeah.
different experience.
Honestly, I mean, like, I feel like my whole brain was turned off from kids and breastfeeding and all that until I had a child. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you don't really pay attention to anything that you're not really experiencing. Like my best friend, she has two kids, and I would see her breastfeeding or formula feeding or whatever, and I'd be like, okay, cool. Like I always advocated for women to whip it out and feed their kids whenever, because it's not a big deal to me. But that was like the extent of it. But I mean, like, everyone at my job has been so accommodating, and traveling and finding like pump rooms and everything has been so great and everything. So, and I'm not afraid to whip it out. I don't even use a cover. I'm just like, look. Got a problem
We
with
gonna
it. I
get
don't know what
into
to tell
that,
you.
girl. You hitting on some of my buttons there. So you had a lot of people in your life that were already nursing. I can only relate to my one friend that does. So
Mm,
I want to chat with you for a moment about, because I feel like there's certain unpaid labor, so to speak, when it
mm-hmm,
comes to breastfeeding. Do you feel me on that?
mm-hmm,
It kind of almost feels like those first maybe 4 to 6 weeks before I could figure out the pump situation, she needed me for everything,
mm-hmm.
and it just felt like I am her sole everything. And at
Yeah.
that time, I had had a scheduled cesarean, so I was still kind of healing, and it was hard for me to bend down. So I wasn't changing diapers or anything. All I was doing is laying back and feeding the girl.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm just thinking about, guess I'm getting up every couple hours to feed her. There's lack of sleep. Then when I'm starting to pump, I'm still getting up every couple of, or I'm still, up every couple of hours, making sure she's fed or pumping at the same time. It's just, and I often thought, like, if I was getting paid for this, and then you think about cleaning everything and sanitizing everything, and if you still do that, no shade, no judgment if you don't, but all of that, so much loving work, but no one talks about that. You know what I mean? What are you thinking?
I mean, yeah, no one talks about any of this. Like, they talk about, like, oh, gonna breastfeed my kid, breastfeed is best, and blah 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 blah. But they don't talk about, like, the pumping, the leaking, the chewed on nipples, the hard to latch. Like, they don't talk about any of that unless you're a mom. You're not hearing this beforehand.
Oh,
And if you do hear it beforehand, you're scared out of your mind. You're like, I don't want to do that. So
yeah.
it's almost like a secret society, kind of, because there's just so much, because they glamorize it in TV and movies, and oh, it's amazing. It's hard and it hurts. Okay.
Wait, you have pain?
This girl still like bit me just now.
Do we have teeth?
No, I mean, her gums, like, sometimes her gums will like catch on my nipple, and I'm like, ah, hurt.
Okay. All right. Well, if that's the initial latch, I'm like, girl, you want to talk to somebody? I'm like, it shouldn't hurt. The only time I really feel like I have pain is when something's wrong with the pump. It's usually the pump that gets me going. I'm like, oh, something ain't
Mm.
right. The suction's to this, gotta turn that down. That's when I can feel a little pain. But
Yeah, no, I
uh,
mean, the first when I first started breastfeeding, it was very hard, because her tongue web was just her frenulum was just so tight, and I didn't know how to latch or do anything. Like, they were trying to tell me in the after I gave birth, like, oh, this is how you feed her. And I was like, y'all, I am doped up on epidural. I don't know my left from my right foot. Like, what are you
oh
talking
my
about?
goodness.
And so it was so hard, and my nipples were in so much pain, that we actually had to feed her with a syringe for like her first maybe like the first week or so. And because we had donated breast milk, because I was in such pain. Like, even though I was
Oh
trying to
wow.
pump, I was just like, bruh. And obviously now I'm like, I'm fine with it. But it was I ended up seeing I mean, as she just got older, it just got better. And then I
Mhm.
ended up seeing a lactation consultant like 3 months after, which I should have just gone and seen her like right off the bat. But now everything is fine, and I learned, like, tips and tricks and all that. But that first newborn situation, bruh, it was awful. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I understand why people quit, but I was like,
Yeah.
no, I'm gonna keep going.
Well, I did go see a lactation nurse. I would I was in this yoga, prenatal yoga, and they brought a consultant over there, and she happened to be Black, which was awesome because I was like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, it's cool.
Mhm.
Um, and so I built a relationship with her. So then I had a consultant call like I think maybe like right after she was born, but she showed me the positions and such while I was
Yep.
pregnant. So I
Mhm.
had that little bit of information, and then I took some online courses beforehand, like it was a
Mhm.
breastfeeding course as well as just like a how to take care of the kiddo kind of course that was all virtual. So I did have a little bit of technical knowledge. So I was in the like I said, I had that scheduled cesarean. So when they bring my daughter back to me, I was so freaking nauseous. Kind of like you were saying about you're just in so much pain. You're like, I was just so nauseous. Like she was just looking at me like I'm ready to eat, but I just couldn't do it because I felt like I was gonna throw up on her face. And I'm like, oh my God, she's so beautiful. I just want to it's just a wrap. Okay, but I really feel like she would have lashed back there. But as soon as we got to the room, she was like, and I'm on. And I would nurse her for what felt like 40 minutes on a side. Because back in the day, back in the beginning, we feel like of this 6-month old at this point, like we were still using the app to kind of calculate how long, to how long she was on each side. You don't do that no more. Like you used to calculate her naps. But at the beginning, I was overachieving. But now it's like she'd be on there like 10, 15 minutes. She's like, all right, what's next? Because life is life in. But I think my biggest issue was the pumping component
Mm.
because my daughter, her weight kind of was dropping. And so I remember the nurse in there was like, oh, it's still in that normal range before I left. She's like, it's still in that normal range, but if it drops to X amount of whatever, I would encourage you to pump. So because I left the hospital at like on a 2 day instead of a 3 day, I had to go to the pediatrician in the office the next day. And that's when they were like, oh my gosh, you got to get rid of this formula. And I absolutely hate that our society, with even medical professionals, are just immediately pushing the formula down instead
Mhm.
of doing based on like what you say, breastfeeding is the best feeding or whatever. Fed is fed is what I think. But I just found it so amusing that they immediately were like, give her supplement or supplement or supplement her, and not even asking, are you pumping or anything like that. So I feel like those first few weeks of breastfeeding were just like, well, what does it even matter? She's taking this formula stuff. What does it even matter? Why am I even doing this? Like I had a like month one, I was already in denial. I'm like, I don't even think I'm giving enough. I don't even think I'm pumping enough, or supplying enough. It was just so stressful.
No, it really is stressful. Yeah, just I look back now and I'm just like, man, like I feel like a pro, quote unquote, now because now I have my pumping schedule. Now I know how to, feed her and get her into positions and everything. But I mean, starting off, it was just so difficult because you don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Nope.
I didn't know that stress can affect your supply or that, water and eating, I didn't know that affected your supply either. Like, because I remember there's this one time I was so frustrated because I was like, she keeps getting on me, but I feel like I have nothing. Like, what is going on? And it's because I was eating these teeny tiny meals. Like, oh, here's one piece of fish, and here's a little bit of vegetables, and here's some little half cup or like a quarter cup of rice. Not knowing that I need to eat way more. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh, got it. And now I'm fine. Like my supply is fine and everything, but there's just so many factors that go into to feeding. And with pumping, I was just talking to my husband about this the other day. I was like, whenever we have our second child, I was like, those like first newborn weeks, like those first 2 months, I just want it to be solely breastfeeding because I was trying to pump at the same time and create my stash because you see all this stuff on social media, like, here's how I create my
Girl.
stash. I'm pumping 20 ounces. Oh my gosh. And I'm just like, "Mhm." And so I was trying to, create my stash and I was just driving myself insane. I was just like, you know what? Okay. So now I got it. Where I'm just
Yeah.
like, look, if I have a free weekend where she's not on me, like I was in Arizona like last weekend and I was able to pump to my heart's content. I pumped so much and I got myself a little freezer stash and it was great. And I did still have a freezer stash from like when I was trying back when she was a newborn, like to feed her while I was gone. But yeah, no, this one's much better. But it just it's hard, but we are where we are.
Exactly. But to your point, that is something that I have learned when it comes with breastfeeding. You got to eat well and you got to stay hydrated. Like,
Yeah.
and also I think moving the milk, supply and demand. Those are the three things that I know for sure. I don't know if the oatmeal or the coconut water or whatever herbs and potions work, but I do know if I'm eating good, if I'm staying hydrated, and that milk is coming in and out every what 2 to 3 hours or whatever it is, we're good. Those are the
Yeah.
biggest things that I've learned. What do you
Yeah.
think? Something that, yeah, you agree? Is there anything else you'd add to that?
I mean, also just like your stress levels too. Like, I mean, I had a really stress less. There was no, I had a drama-free, like no stress pregnancy. Same with giving birth. It was a very easy birthing situation. Towards the end, it got kind of crazy because I had a
That's the
fever, she
point.
had a fever, look,
Mhm.
gestational hypertension, she had low blood sugar, so that was kind of a little interesting. But I mean, everything was just like smooth sailing. And so when I would get stressed and like, oh my gosh, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, why am I pumping like literally half an ounce from both breasts? Like, what's going on? And it's just like, no, you need to breathe. I know it's newborn stage, it's crazy, but you need to calm it down and relax because whatever you're feeling that affects your supply, and that can also affect the baby too, not just because she's drinking from you, but just also they can pick up on those things, on your feelings.
Right.
So yeah, that was probably the biggest thing aside from food and
Yeah.
water.
Such a journey with mental health too, like with your mental health with the stress. You're totally right about
Um,
that. But to your point, when it comes to even at work, like when I pump at work, my outputs
mhm.
are trash. And I know because I'm stressy.
Focus on everything else. Yeah.
But as soon as I get to the car and pump, girl, we done pump. Because I know, everyone's averages are different. And
Hmm.
if you see online, people are, 10, 20 ounces in the morning, girl, okay, that's good for you. But
Yeah,
I've
good
been
for you.
learning through my support group, like 2 to 4 ounces. That's pretty normal. And if you
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
fed her one
Yep.
to 2 ounces, that's
Hmm.
pretty normal. Like if you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, okay, these are normal amounts. Stop looking at these girlies with, I don't know. God knows. Like, and honestly, I'd be thinking about it like, that's gotta be uncomfortable. I remember my lactation nurse was like, "Oh, you don't want to pump too much or whatever." She's like, "Don't pump more than 3 times a day in between nursing because then you create an oversupply." And my dumb
Hmm.
butt was like, "Oversupply? That's not, why wouldn't I want that?"
That
And
feels
then you're
great.
like,
Yeah.
"Because it's going to hurt." And you're
Hmm.
going to have to be doing this all the time. And then because you're doing it all the time, again, what we were saying, supply and demand, the cycle is just going to keep cycling and the milk is
Hmm.
just going to keep milking.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to, I'm looking down at my list. So you and I both had like a lactation consultant that kind of helped with
Hmm.
us. How many sessions did you go to?
I think I had like, see, I had one virtually. And that was for the pumping to get me ready to go back to work. And then I had an in-person pumping. And then I had just like a breastfeeding, like positional consultation. So I think I had like three in total. And the pumping was really great because that's what I was really stressing about when returning to work. Cause I was like, how the heck am I supposed to get on the schedule? Da, da, da. So we were able to figure out a schedule, figure out exercises to do for my breasts before I start pumping so that I can get like the most amount and I'm not up there for like 20, 25 minutes. Cause now I get, my 4 or 5 ounces in like 10 minutes, 13
What is
minutes.
your
Top.
exercise? Are you talking about like massage or something?
Yeah. So what I do is like I take out my breasts and I lift it up for 10 seconds, down for 10 seconds, like north, south, east, west. And then I after I've done that, I take it and I shake it, 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 like a milkshake thing. Then I squeeze my nipple for like 5 to 8 seconds, and then I put it into the pump, and then I start pumping. And honestly, like when we did that, I got like I think I got like 4 ounces in like 12 minutes, and I was like,
Wow.
what's going on here? So now I do
I've
it all
not
the
heard
time.
of north, south, east, and west. I've only
Yeah.
heard of warm massages, take a shower. Who ain't got time for that? Or like the warmer massager thing that you can have, cold
Hmm.
compress, whatever, or pictures of your baby. Da da da. I know for me. I feel like when I put the flanges on, my body is like, oh, is it time? Let's go. I'm ready.
Yeah.
So I think my brain has gotten trained with that pump. As
Yeah.
far as
Yeah.
for me, I text my lactation nurse quite a bit in the first couple of months. I haven't
Hmm.
as of late, but now that I'm thinking about it, I kind of just want to be like, "Hey, girl, you doing all right?" Because I know she's moved, and I kind of became friendly with her. I follow her on social media and everything now, so it's
Hmm.
kind of a communal thing. But I think about the same amount as you did, in person, a virtual, and then she came to my house and like we recorded, which I'm
Hmm.
like, this is a whole hour of my nipples being out, but whatever. I
Hey, since giving birth and becoming a mom, I mean, I used to be a nudist, but I've never been one to care about nudity or breasts out. So I remember
And
we
this is
went,
where we differ, friend. I
yeah,
wear
I
a
know.
bra every night to bed. I
I
am
do.
I'm very modest girly. Like, no, just off general
Yeah, no, no,
principle.
no.
I just,
Yeah, I do wear a bra, just a nursing bra to bed, just because sometimes I'll bring her in to sleep. Well, she'll like wake up in the middle of the night, and I'm just like, I am not about to go into her room and rock her and nurse her. She's just gonna come into bed with me, because what happens is I fall asleep in the rocking chair, and then
yeah,
I don't want her just tumbling down. So I bring her into bed, and I have, my bra on. I just like let
right.
one out, because if I go without my bra, then they both start spilling
We'll
everywhere,
start
leaking
spilling out.
everywhere.
Yep,
And I'm like, oh no. So it keeps them contained. But
absolutely.
but yeah, I mean, everyone's gonna see these titties. I really don't care. I'm trying to feed my child, so
Yeah,
deal
and
with it.
that's what I struggled with. I even posted on social
Hmm.
media one time, like I would show you pictures of me when I'm topless half the day. So, like we're good. But I mean, that's been uncomfortable for me because I'm thinking about the holidays. I'm like, shoot, how am I gonna nurse her in front of folk? Because you're around people and she gonna eat at least
Hmm.
2 times. It's just like, ooh, do I pump and then pour and da da da, or do I just say screw it and pull the boob out? I just recently, my husband's folks come over or every week.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, screw it. Like, I'm just gonna pull my little shirt up and I'm gonna nurse her. It's a nursing shirt, so she'll be fine. And they were like,
Hmm.
oh, do you want us to leave? I'm like, no, like, A, I need to get comfortable doing this, and I know I'm covered.
Hmm.
And B, no. So I was proud of myself for being able to do that in public. I know I'm also in a support group,
Hmm.
and it's funny because I've made a friend in there, and I've not said this to her, but it's just weird because it's like all these people you're friendly with, but then you see the boobs. But then this has made me stop sexualizing the body,
Hmm.
especially not the breast. And I've always never understood why people are so fascinated with the butt because, you know, what the butt needs to do. Uh, because the breast is a feeding vessel. It's I
Hmm.
mean, the body is beautiful, the breasts are beautiful, but like it serves a function.
Hmm. It
Has
does.
there
It does.
I noticed a few weeks or a few days ago, like there's so many things that have surprised me as I'm nursing. It's like, shall I oh, my daughter was really getting in there kind of good. Like you were saying, like the biting. I was
Hmm.
typing, so I didn't notice what she was really working hard at something. So as soon as she kind of fell asleep and kind of came off the nipple, I'm like, dang, what is she? It was just like a little gelatinous type of something other on my nipple. And I was like, is that the milk fat? And then it grossed me out at first. And then I was like, well, yeah.
It's motherhood. It's breastfeeding. There have been so many times where now she's in this stage, Charlotte, where she'll just like get distracted and just pull herself off, and then milk goes spraying
Oh,
everywhere. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Charlotte, what is the matter with you?
yeah.
Like,
No,
I don't know what your breast size are, but I have really big breasts. Like, I just went to, where did I go? I went to go get fitted for an actual bra, and what was my
hmm
size? I think I'm uh, I don't know, huh? Mom brain,
I couldn't
because
tell you what size I am now. I've been a small or a medium with sports
mhm,
bras.
mhm,
So I'm not wearing a proper bra.
mhm. No, me neither. I only got some real bras just because I was going to a wedding and I wanted to actually, be supported. All I wear is like my nursing bras, but I think, let's see. And this is like, I'm wearing like a double XL nursing bra and I'm still spilling over it. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, y'all need to bring out the triple XL. But before I got pregnant, I was a 36G. And now I think I'm a 42G or H. I don't know what I am anymore. But
Oh,
so breastfeeding looks very different for me because like when I first started, I would like hold my breast up like this,
yeah.
and then I would hold her here. So she was like sitting up and eating. And then I went to the lactation consultant. She's like, no, gravity is your friend. So just plop
Right.
her down
Hold her
here.
down. Yeah.
And so that's what I do now. But I mean, like, I feel like my breastfeeding journey is a bit different because like, some women they're able to do the cute little, oh, just a little, and oh, you can't even tell that I'm breastfeeding. I'm like, you're gonna tell when I'm breastfeeding. I'm sorry. You're gonna see
Yeah.
a
I,
huge breast come out.
I'm not a founder, but I am like maybe like a member of the itty bitty titty committee, you know what I'm saying? Like a charter member.
Hmm.
So yeah, I can still like cradle her, which is
Mm,
jack with my shoulder, but even and then she can even like lay down with where her stomach is on my stomach and her legs kind of like cross cradle too. Oh, like cross cradle too. So that's still possible for me because again, card carrying member of the IBTC. So I understand.
mhm.
So that's an interesting point that you would say. You would bring that up because do you have wearables?
No.
Okay, because I've always wondered like larger breasted women, how does that work for them with the wearable in their bra? I imagine the flange is probably whatever because it's sticking out of the bra, but like if it's like a wall pump or whatever. But I'm thinking the wearables, that's gotta look not as discreet. Because for me, it just looks like I'm doubly lovely when I put those wearables on. I'm like, hey,
Must
you're
be
doing your
nice.
thing. The Lord giveth and the Lord doesn't give. You feel me? So take your wins,
Hmm.
losses on that one. A couple more things. You've been mentioning travel a bit, and then I do want to talk about the return to work.
Hmm.
Selfishly for me, but you traveled with your daughter yet, or just like by yourself?
Not yet. We're going to Boston for Christmas and I'm a little bit anxious, but one of my other girlfriends, she's a mom and she had her son like 2 weeks before my daughter was born. So she actually went up to I think Ohio, and she's like, "Oh, it went great. Da, 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 this is what you need." And I was like, "Okay, good." But I did go travel by myself and I was kind of like, "Oh, how's this going to work with the breast milk and all this other stuff?" Because I left with just the breast pump. Then I came back with like a huge cooler full of breast milk, but honestly, it was a breeze. I looked up, some of the what is it, the lactation pods where you can just go in and either nurse or pump. Um, and I mean, it was super easy. I had like a nice cooler and freezer packs and everything. TSA didn't give me any issue because I came in, I said, "Hey, this is all my breast milk," and they were like, "Okay, all right,
Was
well."
it frozen?
No, actually it wasn't. What I did was I got a whole bunch of like free ice packs and I took them out of the fridge from the hotel and I just put them in there and they stayed cold the entire time because it was like a 12-hour travel day. And I was like, nice.
Nice. Yeah, I'm thinking about
Yeah.
that. We're going to California with my daughter, and I'm
Hmm.
just like, I kind of want to just bring it frozen, and then on the way back, whatever. I don't anticipate having that much on the way back, but I want to bring whatever frozen, and I kind of just want to serve as we go. But I haven't thought through that well, so that's good to know. And I'm aware of the pods. I use some app that it shows you what it is, and I could put that in
Hmm.
the link for
Hmm.
this podcast or the description for this podcast. Good gravy. And the video
Hmm.
as well, so that our folks can figure out what that is. Because I can't think of what it's called off the top of my head. I know there's several. I think it's called Mamava. Mama.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know.
There was a mama bot at the airport that I'm at my home airport, which was nice. And then when I was coming back, I had to stop in Baltimore and they actually have very nice, it's not even a pod. They don't even, I mean, I'm sure they have mama bots somewhere, but they had just their own nursing pods and our nursing rooms. And it was very nice. Like I had
That's
myself a little
surprising.
recliner, sink, towels, everything.
And I've seen the one in my local Target. That one's A1 too. It's like in the changing room or whatever. That's like that's not
Hmm.
terrible. I would just go hop
Hmm.
over there and a nurse my daughter should I need that. So I'm glad
Hmm.
that that worked out really smoothly. When it
Yeah.
comes to your work pumping situation, what is that like for you? And then I'll share mine.
I mean, so I'm a host, so I'm an on-air host, like how you see like local anchors on your news stations. That's basically what I do for the radio. So And my office, like the studio, is all windows. And I was just like, so when I was getting ready to return to work, it's like being in a fishbowl,
Mhm.
honestly. So when I was getting ready to return to work, I told my boss, I was like, yo, what's going on with this pumping situation? Because I need to pump and there's windows everywhere. And so they actually installed, because we had a pumping room in the back of the building, but I was like, with how radio works, you have to be on at specific times, like down to the second. And I was like, I have 20 minutes, right? That means I would have to gather up all my stuff, run to the back, then pump for, 10, 15 minutes, then run. There's not going to be enough time. So I told them I need some drapes. And so they got me drapes all around my studio, which really is perfect because now I can just like pump, do, and then be like, you're listening to da 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 da. Um, I'm just a little I'm interested to see how we have a pledge drive coming up and I'll be in a different office, but I'm interested to see how that's going to go because I won't be in my home office. I'll be in like a guest office and they don't have the drapes or anything. And I'm just like,
Ooh,
I'm probably just going to have to like go like this behind underneath one of the desks
yeah.
or something and be like, don't look over here, y'all. I don't know. But I
You
mean,
want to see
my
my,
job has
you want to
been,
see my nipples?
yeah, my job has been very supportive with everything. So it's been really
Mine as
A1.
well. Even my full time and my part time, because they don't, or I guess my seasonal job. I have this
Hmm.
little mother suite. I'll send you a picture. It's
Hmm.
quite nice, but it's also like no one's in there. So
Hmm.
I, in a few weeks, someone will be because I have a friend that works with me. Da da da. But I have wearables, so I can kind of get away with kind of fucking around where you can
Lucky.
you cannot, because I mean I can close the door, but if I have the flanges out, but I've noticed with my pumping schedule, like I said, it's really simple, just I nurse Schley before I go. Then I
Hmm.
pump like 2 or 3 hours after that. Then I pump 2, 3 hours after that. And then I probably pump in the car. And then I still nurse her when I get home. For the most part, she usually is hungry as soon as she sees me. She looks at
Hmm.
me like I'm food. You know what I mean? How would you describe yours? Pretty much similar?
You meant pumping schedule?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I basically like in a 24-hour period, because I only pump like 3 times a day.
Same.
Other than that, she's usually all up on me. So I'll like overnight, when I get her from her crib when she's, like, I'm hungry at like 4, I'll feed her. And then she'll get fussy around like 6 or so, but we're both sleeping and tired. So I do a dream feed and I just I mean, I'm sleeping on my side, so I just take a boob out and giving it to her. And then when I leave around like 8:45, I tried to nurse her, but she's not hungry in the morning. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay. So then she gets a bottle because she's with the nanny. And then at 10, at 10:20, I pump. And then I pump again at usually either 12:20 or like 1:20. And then after that I go home. And then she's on me. And then I pump right before I go to sleep, usually like around 10 or so. But recently she's just been up like every single hour of the night. And I'm like, girl,
Wow.
if you don't calm down.
So you don't do your middle of the night feed, or because I used to, my boob clock would be boob clocking and I try to hit snooze, but it wouldn't work for me because I used to get up
Hmm.
at like 2. Well, my boobs would wake me up at like 2:30 and be like, hey, time to go ahead and milk
Yeah.
us out.
Yeah, no, just because I know that she's probably gonna wake up in the middle of the night, I just don't even bother pumping overnight. Like last night, I think I went to bed around 10 and I didn't pump. I hadn't had a release since like 8 something. So
Mm.
I woke up at like 4 and I was like, oh, my boobs woke me up and I was
Oof.
like, oh man. And so I went into one of our guest bedrooms and I pumped 8 ounces and I was like, oh snap. But then as soon as I started pumping, she was like, hey, wee! And I was like, well, it's too late. So we ended up feeding her a bottle that I had already pumped. But I was just like, come on, girl. Like, work with me. What's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's definitely a thing. And I often feel like I had mentioned the flange as soon as it comes on, you already know. And do
Mhm.
you notice when you're having a letdown, which for our listeners, that means when the milk is starting to release from the nipple? Do you feel when you're having a letdown?
I used to feel it really, yeah, I used to feel it felt like very tingly, but now I don't feel them anymore. So I'm just like, are you there? What's going on?
Yeah. Because it's funny that you were mentioning, to kind of rounding out our conversation, it's funny that you were mentioning if I'm not drinking, if I'm not staying hydrated, Like I came from a funeral recently and I wasn't even thinking about pumping, but as soon as I took a sip of water, my body was like, "Oh, we're having a little letdown." And I'm like, "I'm so
Mm-hmm.
glad I'm wearing my pads, like my little nursing pads." And I'm like, "Let me
Mm-hmm.
just go ahead and put my wearable pumps in." And it's just the feelings that I've never leaked. I've only leaked once, really aggressively, but
Mm-hmm.
um, now that I'm aware of the feeling and now that I'm aware, I'm just like always nursing pads everywhere and just trying to keep them in all places. And then I even have a pump in my car, like it's just like a portable one, just
Yeah.
in case.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Gotta do what you gotta do.
Absolutely. Is there anything you want to add to this conversation about your journey for rounding out?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm in a good space with my breastfeeding journey. Because I just, it's nothing that I know some women like celebrate it or whatever. I'm just kind of like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing is feeding my
Right.
child. Some women aren't able to. Some women choose not to, but for me, I'm just like, I'm supposed to be feeding my child. This is what I do, and I feel good about it now. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what it's like because I hope I want to go to like a year. So it'll be interesting to see what it's like when she like starts to get teeth and when she starts to eat more solids and how that's gonna look. So I don't
We'll
know.
stay tuned on that. Yeah, I'm on the
Yeah.
same, we're on the same wave with that. This is where we go back to being the same. I'm like, if I can make it to the end of the calendar year, and then if I just pump to her birthday in April, that's a W. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Seriously.
I have to,
Seriously.
we're gonna do a rapid fire marry, date, or dump. I'm gonna give you one good question off the dome. Okay, see,
Okay.
I wanted to ask a pumping question, but you only use that one pump, the Spectra, right?
No, I had the Medela one, but the Medela one was trash. I did not like that.
Mandela. Okay, well, let's just do this one then.
Okay.
Marry, date, or dump. Okay. Do you freeze? Do you do it fresh or off the boob? Which one are you marrying? Which one are you dating? Which one are you dumping? You know what I mean? Freezing the milk, fresh milk, or just straight from the nipple?
Oof. Um. Uh.
This is supposed
Mary.
to be rapid fire.
Oh, sorry,
Naomi.
sorry. Oh, sorry, sorry. Okay, that's right. Rapid fire. Okay. Marry fresh, marry off the boob, date fresh, and
Like in
dump
the bottle.
freeze. Yeah. Yeah, just because freezing takes, time. Sorry. That was
Yeah,
not
they gotta.
rapid fire. Oh my gosh,
No, it's
my
okay because
bad.
then you gotta dethaw it once you're ready to use it and blase blase. Yeah, yeah, I'm right there with you. Just come on the boob, and then I would I would date the frozen though, just because it comes in a clutch. And I guess the
Hmm.
soda's when you have it in the bottle ready for a couple hours later. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I would, yeah, I don't know. Look, I would kind of marry both fresh and the bottle, just because the bottle, at least I know how much he's actually getting. I don't
Yeah,
have to,
yeah.
I don't have to guess when. Okay, like, are you finished? Are you not? Because she'll just stay on it. I'm like, girl, are you finished? Are you done? What's up?
We are the same. Oh my goodness. It's so good chatting with you. All right,
Yes,
listeners,
likewise.
you stay here, or Naomi, but listeners, we're going to the positive tip. The positive tip. You know, whatever way you are met, whether it be in motherhood or in life, whatever way you float at this thing called life is how you should meet yourself there. But the biggest thing that I kind of want you to take away, specifically just from this series as a whole, like this little two-part series as a whole, is remembering that we're not meant to do this alone in all things. Like we're not meant to do this alone. We're not meant to walk into the space alone. Like that's what people are around here. That's what community is so important. And isolating yourself or not reaching out for help or support, um, like specifically with mothering and breastfeeding and stuff, but just in general, like you hurting yourself. You know what I mean? Because community is meant for everyone, even if you're like a little introverted girly. And so I hope you continue to try and strive for finding your space in this world and finding your tribe, right? And even if you can't textually, if you can only textually communicate with someone because they don't live near you, but you vibe, totally cool. Like flights be flighting. You can meet up with them at some point in their life, and it'll be amazing, right? So I'm trying to think how I want to do this. Yes, coming up for our next pod, I will actually have my acupuncturist and herbalist, Dr. Jennifer, speaking with us. So we're going to talk about classic Chinese medicine, and I'm very excited for you to hear that episode in the coming weeks. So until, well, hold on now. I forgot to say my little thing. Now, if you've listened this far, please share with a friend. If you're watching on YouTube, um, share with a friend, like and subscribe. And if you're on an app, like a podcast app where you can leave a review, I'd really appreciate it. Mhm. That's all my things. All right. Until next time, peace.